Hello and welcome to Anatomy and Beyond's Brachial Plexus tutorial. In this video, I'll be breaking down the brachial plexus into nice and easy steps, ready for you to apply to clinical scenarios. Well, first of all, let's look at the fundamentals of the brachial plexus. When we think of the brachial plexus, we are considering nerve roots C5, 6, 7, 8 and T1. But wait a minute, we don't have a cervical vertebrae 8. So where does this root come from? Well, don't forget that the cervical spinal nerves exit above their vertebrae, so C1 nerve root exits above the C1 vertebrae. Spinal nerve 2, C2, exits between vertebrae C1 and C2. This continues to C8, where the spinal root C8 exits between C7 vertebrae and T1. However, in the thoracic spine, the spinal nerves exit the spinal cord through the intervertebral foramen, so root T1 exits between T1 and T2 vertebrae. The spinal nerve roots are not the only thing we have to be aware of when we consider the brachial plexus. It is also important to know that there are several places along the plexus where the spinal nerves exchange fibers, and these fibers are brought together in 3 different zones where they terminate as branches. These zones that segregate the areas of fiber exchange are termed the roots, the trunk, divisions, cords, and finally branches as they leave the cervical plexus. A mnemonic to help you remember these zones is real, truckers, drink, cold, beer. First of all, let's take a closer look at the roots C5 and 6, and then C8 and T1. These 2 pairs of nerve roots begin to merge fibers almost immediately. C5 and 6 come together, as do C8 and T1. When you come to revise this, remember there is a degree of symmetry around the middle C7. Before the roots come together to form the trunks, fibers from C5, C6 and C7 join to become the long thoracic nerve that innervates the serratus anterior. This can be remembered by the mnemonic C5, C6, C7, throw your arms to heaven. Additionally, fibers from root C5 branch to form the dorsal scapular nerve that innervates the 2 rhomboids and levator scapulae. 3 trunks are formed from the union of roots C5 and C6, root 7 and roots C8 and T1. These trunks are called the superior trunk, the middle trunk, and the inferior trunk. The superior trunk is unique as it is the only trunk that branches to produce nerves. The first is the suprascapular nerve that innervates the supra and the infraspinatus, whilst the other nerve from the superior trunk innervates the subclavius. The trunks continue to form divisions, where fibers from the inferior trunk join fibers from the middle trunk, and fibers from the middle trunk join fibers from the superior trunk, and from the superior they are exchanged down to the middle trunk. After this, 3 cords are formed: the lateral cord, the posterior cord, and the medial cord, all named as related to the axillary artery. From the cords, we have minor and major terminal branches. The first minor branch comes from the lateral cord and supplies pectoralis major. It is called the lateral pectoral nerve. From the posterior cord, we have 3 minor branches: the upper subscapular nerve that innervates the upper subscapularis fibers, the thoracodorsal that innervates the latissimus dorsi, and the lower subscapular nerve that innervates the teres minor and lower subscapularis fibers. From the lateral cord, we are going to have a look at the first major branch, the musculocutaneous nerve. This nerve innervates the flexus of the arm and the lateral skin of the forearm. The lateral cord and the medial cord also unite some fibres to form the median nerve, which innervates most of the flexors of the forearm and the anterior of the skin of the forearm and part of the palm. On the subject of the medial cord, we have two cutaneous nerves, the medial brachial cutaneous and the medial antebrachial cutaneous. There is also another nerve, a minor nerve, which we'll come back to shortly. These two nerves supply the skin of the arm and forearm respectively. The final major nerve from the medial cord is the ulnar nerve. There are two major branches from the posterior cord, the axillary nerve and the radial nerve. Also, let's not forget to revisit the final minor branch on the medial cord, the medial pectoral nerve, that supplies both pec minor and pec major. So now we have gone through the brachial plexus, let's summarise it. Let's start with roots. Root C5 forms terminal branch with the dorsal scapular nerve. While C5, C6 and C7, raise your arms to heaven, form the long thoracic nerve. The superior trunk is the only trunk to form terminal branches. The suprascapular nerve and the nerve to the subclavius. The divisions form no terminal branches. When considering the cords, the lateral cord forms the minor branch, the lateral pectoral nerve, the major branch, the musculocutaneous nerve, and half of the major branch, the median nerve. Whilst the posterior cord forms the upper subscapular nerve, the thoracodorsal nerve, the lower subscapular nerve, the axillary nerve, and the radial nerve. Finally, we have the medial cord. This produces the medial pectoral nerve, the medial brachial cutaneous, the medial antebrachial cutaneous, the ulnar, and the other half of the median nerve. I hope you found this tutorial on the brachial plexus effective. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more Anatomy Made Easy videos. You have been listening to Tanya from Anatomy and Beyond. I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.